So in Salesforce, we have a methods, right? So methods are two types of methods. There are two types of methods in the Salesforce. One is a static method and another one is non-static. Non-static. Static method is a fixed method, fixed memory. This is a fixed memory. And non-static is dynamic memory. Non-static is dynamic memory. Methods are two types of methods, static and non-static. Static is a fixed memory and non-static is a dynamic memory. Again, static memory is divided into the two types. Static memory is divided into the two types. One is the void. One is void method and the second one is non-void. Now, when I say void method, what will happen? Void method returns the null value. That means it doesn't have a return value. Return value is null. But whereas a non-void method returns something. That means at the end of the method, I'll be having a some value which is returned to the non-void method. Non-void method returns something. Again, non-static also will have a two types. Non-static also will have the void, non-void. Non-static also will have the void and non-void. Okay, so this is the Salesforce. On top level, we have a class. Inside the class, we'll have a method. Inside the class, we'll have a method. Right inside the class, we have a method. What are the different type of methods I can create it? Static method, dynamic method. When I say static method, that means it is going to be the fixed memory at the database level. And non-static method will have a dynamic memory. And whether it is a static or non-static method, both will have a two types of methods. One is void and the second one is non-void. So we have to decide whenever we are writing the code, whether I'm writing the static method or non-static. If it is a static method, do I need anything that needs to be returned at the end of the method? Then you decided what needs to be executed. If I need something value at the end of the method, if I need some value at the end of the method, then we need to implement non-void static method. We need a non-void static method. But in case if I want a method which has to be stored in the dynamic memory, and I need a void type of method, non-static, but I need a void method. I'm not expecting anything. Then implement this. So it is always decide who will decide this, whether which one do I need to go, which method should I need to implement, non-static or static, who will decide this? Developer is going to decide it. This is all developer hand. So developer will decide what kind of a method that needs to be implemented. It is decided by the developer. Okay, and variables also, two types of variables we have. One is a static and second one is non-static. Same with variables. Variables will have a two type, static and non-static. When I say static, if I use a static variable, that means it is a fixed memory. In backside the database, the memory allocation will happen as a fixed. And when it is a non-static, the allocation will happen dynamic. Dynamic memory. So variables also, two types of variables, static variable, dynamic variable. Right? So let me show you that how it is the static and non-static. Let's go to the developer console. Okay. So for example, let's go ahead and implement a class. Let's take a new class. File, here goes all. File, new Apex class, CL underscore. Today's class is 0709. And let's say that we are going to implement static versus non-static. Static versus static and non-static. Okay. So in this method, we are going to use both of them. How to declare a static variable, non-static variable. Let's go ahead and see the first, that is. So when I say static variable, whenever we are declaring the static variable, we have to say specifically the keyword called static. Static integer, then I'll say x equal to or c equal to 10. What is this means? This is nothing but a static variable. This is nothing but a static variable. And when it is a non-static variable, non-static variables are, there is no keyword for the non-static. So whenever there is a no keyword in front of the data type, that means this is a non-static variable. Whenever it is, there is no keyword. When I say no keyword, there is no static or non-static, nothing is there. For non-static, we do not declare anything. For non-static, we do not declare anything. So for non-static, it is a, if there is no data type, no keyword in front of the data type, then we say that it is a non-static. How the non-static is going to store it in the memory, it is a dynamic memory. And where is a static, it is going to be the, if it is a static, how it is going to store. How this is going to store the static?
Fixed memory.
Fixed memory. So same thing for the methods also. Okay. Let's assume for the method public, I'll say void method1. So what is this? Whether it is a static or non-static?
It's a non-static.
Static.
Non-static method. Non-static method, which is dynamically stored. Dynamic memory this is. If I say method 2 also, I'll declare it. Okay. In method 2, what I'll do is I'll mention the keyword called static. When I say keyword called static means it is a static method. In method 1, okay, in non-static, I'll just print the value system dot debug. I'll print the C and the system dot debug. I'll print V. Okay. Now, whereas static method, in static method also I'll give the same thing. We have a two variables here. One is non-static variable and static variable. Inside the non-static method, I can call the static variable or non-static variable, which is possible. But inside the static method, I can only call the static variable. Non-static variable, I cannot call. System will not allow non-static variables or non-static methods to call inside the static method. Right? So this is the wrong one. So that's what it is saying. Variable does not exist V, but I have a V here. I have a V here. Why it is saying variable does not exist V? Because V variable is declared as a non-static variable. When my method is static, it only look for the static variable, static method, static only it is look for the static. Which are the variable that is declared as a static, it will look at only those variables. Any variable that does not have a static, it will not accept it. And for example, if I try to call this method 1, does it accept or not?
Should not accept because it has no static variable inside it.
Static or non-static? Can you repeat that again?
It will not accept inside the static method because there is a static, non-static variable inside the non-static method. So
This is a non-static method.
yeah.
So method will not be accepted here because it is a non-static. Whereas if I say method 2 here, in case if I say method 2 here, does it accept or not?
Yeah, it will accept.
It will accept. Right? It will accept because non-static void doesn't care about whether the static or non-static, it doesn't care. Now from in method 1, what I'll do is I'll pass integer x. Okay. And here also I'll pass the integer x, same variables I'll pass it. In non-static method, I'm passing the same. Static method also I'm passing the same. Okay. In non-static method, we'll say instead of direct debug, what I'll say is okay. So what I'll say is, let's assume that I have a variable b. Okay. So v equal to v plus x. So I'll print system dot debug. I'll print the v. Okay. Now here also I'll print c equal to c plus x, and then I'll print the c value. Clear? Now how the execution will happen. How I can execute this, how I can execute this. So let's go with the non-static first. Debug, open execute anonymous. Let's take this method. Okay. So let's say this is non-static. Okay. I'll give sn equal to new. The class name, I'm initializing it. This is for what we will do. If it is a non-static method, then we will go for the initialization of the class. If it is a non-static method, if I have a non-static method, we will go with initializing the class. And then I'll call this dot method. What is a non-static method here? Method 1 is a non-static method. And there I'll pass 10. What is the output I'm going to get it?
40.
So I'll get the 40. Right? If it is a static method, how can we execute it? While executing the method, how can I execute the static method? If it is a static method. If it is a static method, I need not to initialize it. If it is a static method, I need not to initialize it. Class dot method 2, I can directly call. Right? I can directly call. So this will be executed and it will give the 20. Now here, here method 1, what are the value that we are printing? V is a non-static variable. Okay. Now method 1 is also non-static variable. Now in case if I wanted to execute again, this, right? If I wanted to execute this again with a different value, assume that I wanted to execute this. In case if I wanted to execute from the different class, in different class also I have to initialize it and execute it. In another class, I have to initialize it and execute it. Right? So here, what is happening here? This all dynamic memory location. Based on the initialization, it is going to allocate the memory, how much memory is needed for this. It is going to decide it during the execution of it. And here for the static, what we will do in case if I wanted to execute again and again, directly we will write class dot method 2 multiple times we will write it. Right? When we write it, there is no initialization. It is fixed. As soon as it is executing, there is a method, directly it executes with the class. So there is a fixed memory gets executed. Now what I mean to memory location here, let's come back here. So for example, here non-static, and this is the static. This is non-static memory and this is the static memory. Okay. So first what will happen? First I'm taking the value. Okay. Now let's try to understand this. Okay. I have a non-static and static. Okay. First, what will happen here? Non-static variable initialization is happening. Okay. When non-static variable initialization is happening, the memory is whenever there is a, I'm adding here 10. Number 10, I'm adding here. Whenever I'm calling the method 1, what will happen? Method 1 during the execution. First of all, when it is executed, for non-static method, what we will do? We will initialize the class. As soon as I initialize the class, what will happen? It will create a memory there. It will create a memory there. It will create because I'm initializing it. I'm initializing it. On as soon as I'm initializing it, there is a memory is created it. And for inside the memory, I'll be passing the value as a 10. And I have a value which is there is 10 equal to 20. Again, next 10, again I am initializing the class. So because I'm executing from the different class, whenever I initialize it, again, there is a memory that gets created here. So every time whenever I initialize it, there is a memory is created for that particular class, right? Every time it is created, it is going to get created here. That means every time I get the value as output as I have declared it here so many times, right? Every time I get it 20, 20, 20. Let's see the output of this. Every time I get it, like, sorry, 40, 40, 40. Why it is 40? Because I'm passing the 10 here and the integer v equal to 30. Okay, I have this. Every time whenever I try to execute this, for each one of them, the execution is happening individually. Like as soon as I initialize it, dynamically the memory is created for that particular class. It doesn't care about the previous one. What is the previous value? It doesn't care. But when it comes to static, here I'm passing the 10. Okay, for example, here I have a 30, right? Here I have a 30. So first time it will be 40, right? First time it will be 40. So what will happen second time when I executed static method? When I execute the static method second time, what is the value that I'm going to get it?
50.
The values are keep on adding. So let's go ahead and see. So the output I'll get 40, 50, 60. Whereas here 40, 40, 40. Non-static method doesn't care what is the value is there before. As soon as I initialize it, it will think that, okay, I have to create a memory for this particular non-static method and the values are passed. But when it comes to the static is what is the value it has? It has 30. So now whenever it is first time it is executing 30 plus. And what are the value that I'm passing it? It is equal to 40. Now again, it will try to execute it. Second line, which is we are going to execute it. Again, we are executing the second line. So whenever this second line gets executed, what will happen? It will check what is the previous value plus 10. There is no memory allocation, fixed memory. Once, whenever the class inside the class, whenever we declare this kind of a method, the memory is allocated that time. Now during the execution, there is no memory allocation. It does not happen. Equal to 50. Now again, whenever I execute it, it is at 10. So final output is I'm going to get it as a 60. The space will not be allocated every time that I execute it. Every time that I execute it, the space will not allocate. But when it comes to the non-static, the space is created every time. The space is created every time. Okay. Clear everybody how to decide the variable, how to decide the method, and what is the method that I need to write it. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There is a homework inside the class. Okay. Homework right now we have to do it in the class. Implement a Visualforce page to create a contact record. Create a new contact record and link the, while creating the contact record, link the existing account ID. Okay. Existing account ID. So what you have to do it, you have to create a Visualforce page. Okay. For the Visualforce page, what you need to do, you need, what are the mandatory informations are there? Last name, first name. Take those values, last name, and take the first name and phone number and email. So these are the 4 fields. Okay. Now create a, let's have here save button. Okay. As soon as you saved it, a record should be saved. Along with that, there is a account ID attached to it, or else you can show here existing account ID. Existing account ID, which is like 001, 18-digit number. Digit number you can show here. Clear? So that is assignment inside the class. Let's do it. Workshop. Fine.
Yes, ma'am.